Some showers, yes, but also clear spells. A warm night in the southeast, much cooler further north with a brisk northerly breeze. We're going to notice that, and that will continue to bring some showers into the north of Scotland. Not quite as lively as Wednesday, however, certainly further downpours to come. Central and southwestern Scotland tending to be drier. Northern Ireland, a few showers around during the morning, but again not quite as lively, and the thunderstorm risk has diminished by this stage. It's across northern and western England, Wales, where we'll see the most frequent and heaviest showers as we start off Thursday. Drier towards the East Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast with some sunshine, but the cloud will build. And as you can see, it's England and Wales actually on Thursday afternoon where we'll see the most showers. Highly variable, hit and miss from place to place, so not especially useful for relieving the drought situation. There will be some heavy rain in places, and it will feel much cooler compared with much of summer so far. That cool theme continues into Friday with a chilly start in parts of northern UK under clear skies and with some shelter from the breeze. And actually, there'll be sunny spells throughout Friday, fewer showers all in all, still some down the east coast and across Northern Ireland, Wales and the southwest. They'll ease this weekend as high pressure returns. No heat wave, but it will turn a touch warmer.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal.
It's the final week to see how you could win over £65,000 in prizes.
You could be our latest Great British Giveaway winner.
First of all, we want to give you
£60,000 in tax-free cash, plus you'll also receive a fine gold bar worth over £5,000.
For a chance to win, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 9 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight.
Refugees are welcome here! Refugees are welcome here!
Absolutely huge revelation. The Home Office is now telling illegal migrants not to rape kids, beat up women or mutilate their genitals. This is the first time the Home Office has openly admitted that they know there is a problem with the illegal migrants coming to our country. Plus,
every second I'm wearing it, you know, that is my jihad. And if I'm outspoken for it, then I could be part of this struggle against Islamophobia.
Right. Well, Portugal has now banned the burqa. Meanwhile, Britain becomes Europe's top destination for fundamentalist Muslims. And
I remember coming to see our Maggots just after the King being diagnosed. Nobody could say anything at the time. That was quite difficult.
Queen Camilla does an astonishing interview about King Charles's cancer. Also, as Putin threatens Britain, is Andy Burnham right to keep arming Ukraine? On our panel tonight, we've got the Director of Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood. We've got Reform UK Councillor Jamie McIver and broadcaster and writer Nina Mishkov. So get ready, Britain. Here we go. Good evening. The Home Office appears to have just accepted that they are importing rapists and paedophiles. They are giving illegal migrants a booklet on how not to rape women and children. Asylum seekers have been told that sex with kids is bad. The booklet says laws and customs here may be different from your home country. It says sex with someone under the age of 16 is a serious crime in the UK. Even if they say yes, it is still illegal. You could go to prison, lose your support and accommodation, and it will affect your asylum claim. Just note there how it does not say to them that you will definitely be deported if you rape a child, or that you will definitely have your asylum claim rejected. No. And illegal immigrants have to actually be told what rape is. Here it is. In the UK, both people must say yes to sex. This is called consent. It's still illegal if you're married to them or if they previously said yes, but now they say no. This will affect your asylum claim. Again, just affect your asylum claim. You won't definitely be deported. We'll just take a really dim view of it, will we? Under one page, headed Gender Equality, asylum seekers are told that women can work, study and travel freely without needing permission from a man in the UK. Another page on domestic abuse warns that you could be arrested or go to prison if you carry out physical or emotional attacks on their partner. They even have to be told to never try to have sex with someone who is asleep, drunk or unable to consent clearly. And get this. They are even told, because apparently they need to be, that they shouldn't go around mutilating women's genitals. These are the sort of people that the Home Office knows are coming to Britain. And, you know, they're even warned that they're not allowed to take sexual images of someone without their consent or share those sexual images without consent. Look, this is it. This is proof. Right here, in this document, right here, this is proof. This is total vindication for all of you. Some of the people who are coming across the channel in boats or in the back of lorries are a real, clear and present danger to women and children. And if they weren't, why would the Home Office feel the need to have to tell them that sex with kids is bad and you shouldn't beat up women? Despite all this, Andy Burnham still wants to drop them all into rural British villages or in HMOs around the country. And Ed Davies' Liberal Democrats want to join the EU migration scheme, which would probably see us taking loads more asylum seekers from Europe and would do absolutely nothing to stop all the illegals breaking into Britain across the Channel. Look, I honestly think that anyone who still thinks that this kind of thing is a good idea must be mentally ill. And I don't say that lightly. I just refuse to believe that any competent, sane person could look at case after case after case, like this illegal immigrant who was refused asylum, who gang rapes a woman on a Brighton beach and said in court that rape is sex, and think, yeah, you know what, everything's fine. I mean, if only that man on your screen right now, if only that man on your screen had been given a 9-page Home Office document when he arrived in Britain, there is no way that he would have raped that poor woman, is there? I mean, look at this.
Yep. Coming to a HMO on a street near you, that is, trust me.
That's one of the videos from Lee Anderson's recent trip to Calais there. There's another one he's posted on his social media today as well, where he's talking to a bloke from Somalia, or at least he claims to be from Somalia anyway, who says that he wants to come to Britain just because he wants to F-word women, obviously. And he needs to come to Britain, he says. How can Ed Davey and Andy Burnham look at videos like that and think, yeah, give him a little brochure telling him not to diddle a 15-year-old and stick him near a primary school in the countryside? Oh, what could go wrong? And just look at the stats, shall we? According to figures from the Centre for Migration Control, between April 2024 and March 2025, foreign nationals accounted for 79.3% of all arrests for theft of passenger property on Britain's transport networks. Foreign nationals also accounted for 36.6% of arrests for sexual offences on the same transport network. And yet, we keep seeing adverts like this, don't we?
The man in the grey suit is staring at you. Would you report it? It's him again. You can feel his breath. Would you report it?
White man, young professional in a suit, sexually assaulting an ethnic minority. But you can't have it the other way around, can you? An advert that portrayed a young black man as an aggressor was actually banned because it was racist. The British public is being gaslit, whilst the actual Home Office feels the need to tell illegal immigrants that they shouldn't have sex with kids and that women need to consent to sex. Why? Why do they feel the need to do that? Because they know it's a massive, massive problem. Let's get the thoughts from our panel. Director of Public Services, Mark Littlewood, Reform UK Councillor Jamie McIver and broadcaster and writer Nina Mishkov. Look, Mark, this is it, really. This is the total admittance from the Home Office here in, well, in this case, kind of purple, black and grey, I suppose, that actually the Home Office knows that there is a huge cultural difference and that they are playing roulette with the lives of especially women and girls in this country, and they are content to keep doing it.
Yes, I mean, God almighty, where to begin? I completely agree with you, Patrick. We now live in gaslit Britain, where the information we're receiving is a deception of the truth because we can't face up to the truth. This pamphlet is extraordinary, and the reason I find it so extraordinary and disturbing is if you need that pamphlet, I don't want you anywhere near my country. Absolutely. Right? So that's sort of the test. I would have thought the test would be not to give that to someone who wants to come here, but to ask them to recount all of the rules and customs in it, sight unseen, and if you can't, we don't want anything to do with you in Britain. It also shows you how farcical our government has become, and this is true right across the board, not just with regard to immigration. The idea that somebody's going to come into this country who broadly thinks that rape is fine, sex with underage boys or girls is fine, it's OK to sexually assault people on public transport, if they come with those cultural mores, the idea that reading a short Home Office pamphlet is suddenly going to put them right is a ludicrous degree of optimism. So it's farcical and disturbing in about equal measure.
Yeah, you know, again, here, there's a page on this, sex and consent, OK? I mean, both people must say yes freely without any threat or pressure. Someone can change their mind any time. If someone is asleep, drunk or unable to respond, they cannot consent. That is basic human understanding. And it doesn't matter what country you're from or what culture you're from. Realistically, you should know that. And yet, the Home Office is now admitting that asylum seekers coming across the Channel or in the back of lorries need to be told this, and they'll plonk them in little villages around the country now.
Well, this is the thing, Patrick. I feel personally a little bit vindicated from this booklet because I remember being reported to the standards that the council saw. I had 2 external KCs looking at my tweets where I might have suggested that women's safety is under threat, whether that be the Bell Hotel, Wethersfield in Braintree. You know, I'm sick and tired of people being absolutely vilified for stating the obvious, which is that if you import the third world to this country, which we are doing on steroids, you will get the third world. And what happens in the third world? Women get raped and it's okay. Young children get fiddled with and it's okay. Young girls have to suffer FGM and it's okay, because that's what they do in those countries. Well, it's not what we do in Britain. But I have to say, if just one young girl doesn't become a victim of a serious crime because of this brochure, then I'll give the brochure out myself. But the truth of the matter is, the men that are coming to this country, the vast majority of them will not care at all about what's in that brochure. And as you rightly pointed out, it doesn't say that if you're found guilty of any of these crimes, that's it, you're out the door. Oh, no, it just might have a bad, you know, we might not like what we see when we see your application.
We'll count against
the truth of the matter is, young girls in Britain, for as long as those boats keep coming and for as long as those illegal migrant men come to this country, they are at risk. And finally, it looks like the Home Office, in a weird way, have admitted that.
How can they, Nina, in all good conscience now, how can Andy Burnham, how can, you know, the Home Secretary, how can all of these people now be expecting people in villages up and down the country or in areas where there are still migrant hotels or where there are these HMOs to feel safe? When we have it now here, essentially in black and white, that the Home Office acknowledges that there is a major problem with child rape, abuse of women, domestic abuse and female genital mutilation from the very people that are moving into those areas.
I sit here week after week being told that these are men that come from a different culture to ours, different cultures, and they don't understand how women should be treated. Well, this is the Home Office recognising that. You can't have it both ways. You can't say they're from a different culture and then at the same time blame the government for not doing anything about it. And I know it's a brochure, right? OK. So let's just put it into some sort of context. These are people who are living different lives. Afghanistan, you know, where women don't even have a voice. So they're not going to treat women as human beings the way, but nevertheless, they are here. We have not imported them. We have not asked them to come. They have landed on our shores, and we have to do something with them. And while they're being processed, because you can't just pick them up and deport them, while they're being processed, they need some, God's sake, some way of somehow re-educating them, at least enlightening them to a certain extent. And while we're about it, I presume these brochures are done in their own language.
Well, this is the next big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
I hope so, because, you know, I hope that these are in things like Pashtun and in a variety of different languages, because at the moment this is in the King's English.
Well, they're reading it. I mean, they're not that stupid. They know they have to be in the language of the people who arrive. I would like this pamphlet to go into schools, because 18 to 27% of young men, 27% of 18 to 27-year-olds agree with Andrew Tate.
Right.
Agree with Andrew Tate, whose views are not reflected in that brochure, who treats women like second-class citizens. That's true. Now, hang on.
But we teach this in schools, Nina. You might not say it's sufficiently taught.
It's not sufficiently. It's not sufficiently counted because yes, but how come in that case, if it's taught at schools, 18 to 27-year-olds, quarter of them in this country believe what Andrew Tate. That's outrageous.
The problem here, surely. I might have some sympathy with Nina that we need to overhaul the national curriculum in schools on a whole range of different factors. But the idea that this pamphlet is going to change the behaviour of anyone coming into the country is so heroically optimistic as to be ludicrous. There is zero chance, Jamie, if you handed out these leaflets, that you would stop even one assault. You cannot use a short government pamphlet to attempt to overcome such stark differences in cultural approaches to women. I often look for government guidance on very nuanced things if I'm going away. What are the smoking rules here? How do they differ from the UK? What are the licensing rules? That sort of sort of thing. But the idea of a government brochure is going to change people's behaviour.
Would you better that they did nothing?
Ludicrous.
Would you be happy if they did nothing?
Let's be very clear.
I would be happy to. I think I would be happy if they stopped these people coming in.
The only good thing that comes from this brochure is the Home Office finally admitting that these men are a danger to women and girls, and that for me feels like a celebration is required, because they have frankly ignored and vilified, like the mums of Epping, for even suggesting it. But let's be very real. The only way you deal with this and make women and girls safe in this country is to immediately detain and deport these men as soon as they arrive.
Deport them where?
Back to where they've come from. And I could not care less if that's not a safe place because they're safe in France.
No, I'm not talking about safe place. I'm talking... If you don't have a returns agreement, you cannot deport them.
Then they go to France.
No, you can't. And France won't take them. So what do? Drop them in the middle of the channel to drown?
There are ways around it.
No, there are not ways around it. There are not ways around it.
We have to...
They are here.
But we have to explore some imaginative schemes. If the country they're from won't take returns, we will ban that country from visas. What about building something on Ascension Island or somewhere else? Nobody is grasping for these imaginative solutions.
Can I ask you this, Nina? Because the thing one of the things that really winds me up about this is that for years and years and years, people who raised concerns about sexual assaults, rapes, propensity to violent crimes, etc., from people of different cultures and some different countries were called racist. They were told there's no evidence for it. And actually, it looks very much like possibly the whole time our actual Home Office knew that that was true and were trying to do something about it. And we were all told, no, you're horrible little racists. You know, people in Parliament, left-wingers in Parliament, at these big refugees welcome marches, at the march against the far right, all of this stuff, were calling out basically anyone who said what is in a Home Office document given to these people. Do you not think that we're owed a massive apology?
Yes.
I think that this is a situation that almost nobody can solve at this moment. It is, until we have a returns agreement with different countries, until we have some means of deporting them, because you cannot just get the Royal Navy and shove them back into the middle of the ocean. You cannot do that. You cannot do that. You have to deal in pragmatic terms. And the point being that if it is the case that there's a greater propensity for crime, and while I'm talking about... I just want to pick you up on something. You said that you talked about that TV advert about crime on, sexual crime on the tube, showing a white perpetrator against a black woman. You said that 36% of crimes on public transport
foreign national.
Well, foreign national. Well, that
means we've imported nearly 40%.
I know, but that means that 66%, 64% are the other way around.
You never see the 40% in a TV advert.
Let's see that. But
that was banned.
But then the majority
white as well. There is that. There's a lot of ethnic minority Brits.
But also, how many? All this like, be pragmatic. We can't just send them back to France. How many people are supposed to be raped, sexually assaulted, and murdered until we stop being pragmatic and actually just put their interests first?
Well,
I'm not prepared to let that happen to anybody.
Well, let's go into homes and see how many women are being sexually abused and raped by British husbands.
We've got our own scumbags in this country that need dealing with.
I want us to be pragmatic as well, but my pragmatic starting point is how do we solve the problem of these people not getting into the country, and if they do get in, that they are swiftly and safely removed.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't seem the government even accepts that is the problem. They want a pragmatic solution to.
They understand that. Of course they understand that, but it is, if it was easy, it would have been done before now. The Tories failed.
I just think
and then Ed Davies got a brilliant suggestion in joining the EU new task an asylum pact, which would mean that we would renegotiate that aspect with the EU. We would go to get a form of the Dublin Agreement, be able to immediately deport people straight to the country, the EU country which they first landed in. That would solve things. It would cost us 100 million to join. Which is way less than the Rwanda scheme cost us, and then we'd also have access to the biometric data, which we haven't had since Brexit. The disaster of Brexit and Nigel Farage would be wiped out by that.
Well, there we go. But obviously, the downside to it is that it could inadvertently lead to us taking more people, which would be...
No, they say it would be less because
well,
we...
they say
I trust that if Ed Davey says it, I'm sure it's true.
They also said until quite recently that this wasn't happening, you know? This wasn't happening. And then all of a sudden it is. And we're having to remind people... And can I just... Final point on this before I move on. I have reported from a place where there is a asylum centre next door to a primary school. Right next door. And we even filmed some of the people who were in that centre who were supposedly children themselves, flipping out, honestly, walking and peering through the gates of that primary school. We did it about a year and a half ago on this very show. And, you know, it emerges that the Home Office has been desperately trying to tell them, by the way, don't touch any of those kids. I mean, the roulette that they have been playing with people's lives in this country is ridiculous. Anyway, a Home Office spokesperson said, we expect everyone who comes to the UK to abide by our law. If they do not, they will face consequences, including the refusal of their asylum claim and removal from the UK. Returns of failed asylum seekers have reached their highest level since 2010 under this government. Right, OK, I've got an action-packed show for you tonight, plenty to get through, but I do, of course, need to tell you about the latest Great British giveaway. Here's Hayley Sparks with all the details.
Welcome to Orla Santi by Domes Resorts. There's just 2 days left to see how you can win big in our golden summer celebration. And you could be enjoying a golden year with an incredible £60,000 to be won. That's tax-free cash that you'll get to spend on anything you like. What would you do with it? You could relax knowing that we've got those day-to-day financial pressures sorted. Or find yourself celebrating in the lap of five-star luxury, somewhere like here, the Spritzeria. Plus, we'll give you a fine gold bullion bar worth over £5,000 that you can keep or gift to a loved one. Make sure you don't miss out as lines close on Friday.
For a chance to win £60,000 in tax-free cash and a real gold bar, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
OK, well, look, coming up, Portugal has just banned the burqa, which means that now Britain is yet again an outlier. It is a top destination for fundamentalist Muslims. Is it time our government actually just cracked on and banned the burqa here? But before that... Well, Putin has been warning Britain there'll be consequences after British-made drones were used by Ukraine to strike Russia. So is Andy Burnham right to keep arming Ukraine? That's next.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
We can allow. You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain is not just a geographical expression,
We are a people bound together by history and culture that are distinctively British. Join me to celebrate our music, theatre, artworks and literature, which we can explore and enjoy together.
Everybody's welcome.
Sunday with Michael Portillo, every Sunday at 11 a.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you. Bulletins on GB News,
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter? So that's a very live question. Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way. You will not want to miss it, trust me.
The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Welcome along to Patrick Christys tonight. So, is the Prime Minister right to keep arming Ukraine? It's time for the head-to-head. Well, the reason I ask is because Vladimir Putin has threatened Britain with consequences after Ukraine reportedly used British-made drones to strike targets deep inside Russian territory. The Russian embassy said to the UK on Monday, London's actions will inevitably carry consequences for which it will have to answer. The deeper its involvement in the conflict and the greater its support of Kiev's terrorist machinery, the higher the price it will pay. But speaking yesterday, the Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, basically just doubled down. Here he is.
We are providing support so that Ukraine can defend itself, and that's been the British position all the way through this conflict by previous Prime Ministers. It remains the case with me. We are not fair weather friends. We will be there in Ukraine's hour of need, and that won't change.
OK, so tonight I'm asking, is the Prime Minister right to continue arming Ukraine then? Going head-to-head on this now, former Conservative MP and the author of The New Total War is Bob Seeley, and national security and foreign policy expert Khaled Hassan. Thank you very, very much. OK then, Bob, fire away. Do you think that we are right to continue arming Ukraine in light of these Russian threats?
Hi, Patrick. Yeah, look, whether we like it or not, Russia believes it is in conflict with the collective West. And actually, Putin has a very specific hatred for this country. So it is we're not supporting Ukraine as an act of charity. We're supporting them out of crude self-interest. It is better that we fight the Russians in Kharkiv and in Dnipro rather than in the Baltic republics and Poland, because those countries are members of NATO. And frankly, we want to keep Russian armies as far away from the frontiers of NATO as possible.
OK, Khaled, your views then. Should we back off, do you think?
Thanks for having me. I think we should pause and ask some key questions, and we have the right to expect some answers from our politicians before rushing into this. We've given the Ukrainians around 25 billion pounds so far. You know, our budget, our defense budget, is around 65 or 66 billion. And we've given them a lot of money. We don't really have a plan. We don't really have answers. We don't really even know if, when the Russians come with those consequences for supporting Ukraine, whether we would ever be ready or not. So we have to answer these questions, not just send blank checks, and then potentially continue with the support. Yes.
OK. Bob, I suppose, look, I think...
Can I just answer those points?
Yeah, just do it.
Patrick, let me just answer this point, because they're very valid points. And, you know, people shouldn't shy away from criticising this policy, because you know as well as I do that when there's a collective and everyone's agreeing the same thing in British politics, that's a very good reason to ask some searching questions. We're spending at the moment about $3 billion a year on supporting Ukraine out of a defence budget of about 62 billion, 60 billion odd, and out of a total security budget of 70 billion. So 3 billion is not an insignificant sum, but it is not a massive sum. And when it comes to a plan, the Ukrainians do have a plan, which arguably they didn't in the first 2 years of this war. And that is to grind the Russians down on the front line and to hit the Russian oil supplies and the Russian economy, so the Russians have to sue for peace. This is not an issue of us stopping, supporting, and then everyone sort of makes peace because everyone stops fighting. When the Russians stop fighting, that is the end of the war. When the Ukrainians stop fighting, that's the end of Ukraine. That is the simple issue here.
OK. Khaled, I suppose for me, if a British-made drone or some components for a missile or something along those lines is fired by the Ukrainians into the Kremlin, then do you honestly believe that Vladimir Putin is going to try and nuke us?
Well, you never know. I mean, you have to bear in mind, I think this is one of the main misconceptions in British and Western security doctrine. We make assumptions. Number one, we're started with the assumption that this is in our national interest. We need to fund them because if we don't, they're going to attack Poland. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. You know, building our entire security doctrine on assumptions, whether Vladimir Putin will nuke us or not, is again something that is hypothetical. What I need to ask, and the answers I need, and I'd love for Bob to actually answer this, are we capable of stopping the Russians if they start to attack our interests, whether it's in the Middle East or elsewhere? Because it doesn't look like we're capable. I mean, we have seen, you know, surveys, around 14% of this population would actually defend this nation if it's invaded. So our own people are saying, if we are invaded, we're not going to defend this nation. Do we have the capacity to do this? This is the main question now, before jumping into any assumptions.
Well, go on then, Bob.
Okay, I mean, look, I'm not really interested in polls saying would you fight for this country or not. It's a very famous debate in Oxford in the 1930s saying would we fight for king and country? People said no. 6 years later, you had World War II, and arguably it was the greatest. Sadly, you know, it was we didn't have to fight World War II, but we did because of the mistakes made in the 1930s, and it was our finest hour, to quote Winston Churchill. So I sort of park that for the minute. When it comes to are we capable of stopping the Russians, that's a very good point. And unfortunately, for the last 30 years, under both the Conservatives, sad to say, and under Labour, we really declined our military capability significantly. Not everyone in NATO did, so NATO is still collectively strong. If the Russians attack, they're unlikely to do it in a blunt military-only route. They're much more likely to try something which is sort of below the radar in what is known militarily as the grey zone, so that they will spark some incident in Poland or incident in the Baltic republics as a way of testing the political will of NATO. So are we capable of stopping the Russians? It's partly a question of hard power, but it's also partly a question of soft power and political will. So it's a lot more complex than just saying, do we have enough tanks?
OK, but both of you, thank you very much. I know we could carry this on, obviously. In a way, hopefully we don't have to, because it'd be nice if the war stops, but I suspect we will be talking about this again in future. That's former Conservative MP and author of The New Total War, Bob Seeley, and national security and foreign policy expert Khaled Hassan. Coming up, Portugal has just banned the burqa. They are the latest European country to do it. Meanwhile, Britain is becoming Europe's top destination for fundamentalist Muslims. Is it time that we did something about that? But before that...
Refugees are welcome here! Refugees are welcome here!
This story is so mad, I've decided to do it twice this hour. We now have this document from the Home Office today telling illegal migrants how not to rape women and children. They've admitted what we've been crying from the rooftops for so long, that we are importing rapists and paedophiles, and that's next.
Be nice to escape the grey.
Clear skies, here we come.
As clear as our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
It's not just the UK where we've seen a change in the weather this week, certainly much cooler across northern and central Europe, with some very lively thunderstorms in places. Now, there are some thunderstorms around on Thursday for eastern parts of Spain into the south of Iberia, for example. But the liveliest downpours and thunderstorms most likely northern Italy into the Alps, and especially around the Italian lakes, where there could be some very significant rain right there through this week and into the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Now the seal has broken. The 2-month-long dry spell across some southern parts of the UK has come to an end, and we'll see further showers during the next 24 hours as low pressure dominates the weather rather than high pressure. That low pressure sinking south slowly during the rest of Wednesday into Thursday, and that means the focus for the liveliest showers will shift. Initially, Northern Ireland, Scotland seeing some thunderstorms, but the risk for thunderstorms pushes into northern England overnight, and there'll be some torrential downpours, hail, thunder as well. Further south, some showers, yes, but also clear spells. A warm night in the southeast, much cooler further north with a brisk northerly breeze. We're going to notice that, and that will continue to bring some showers into the north of Scotland, not quite as lively as Wednesday, however, certainly further downpours to come. Central and southwestern Scotland tending to be drier. Northern Ireland, a few showers around during the morning, but again not quite as lively, and the thunderstorm risk has diminished by this stage. It's across northern and western England, Wales, where we'll see the most frequent and heaviest showers as we start off Thursday. Drier towards the East Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast with some sunshine, but the cloud will build. And as you can see, it's England and Wales actually on Thursday afternoon where we'll see the most showers. Highly variable, hit and miss from place to place, so not especially useful for relieving the drought situation. There will be some heavy rain in places, and it will feel much cooler compared with much of summer so far. That cool theme continues into Friday with a chilly start in parts of northern UK under clear skies and with some shelter from the breeze. And actually there'll be sunny spells throughout Friday, fewer showers all in all, still some down the east coast and across Northern Ireland, Wales and the southwest. They'll ease this weekend as high pressure returns. No heat wave, but it will turn a touch warmer.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Well, welcome back. I'm going to return to what I genuinely think is one of the most shocking stories that I've reported on in recent times, actually, and it's a vindication for people. It really is. Migrants arriving in the UK are now being handed Home Office booklets warning them that sex with children is illegal, that men and women are actually equal under UK law, and that they shouldn't be doing things like mutilating women's genitals. The 9-page document tells asylum seekers that British laws and customs here may be different from your country. We've got a page here headed Gender Equality. Arrivals are told that women are allowed to work, study and travel without a male chaperone. That's nice, isn't it? There's a section on sex and consent. Never try to have sex with someone who's asleep, drunk or unable to consent. And perhaps most disturbingly of all, it, of course, tells them that you shouldn't be having sex with anyone under the age of 16, even if they say yes. Now, I'm going to be talking now to the External Affairs Officer at the Free Speech Union, Connie Shaw. Now, Connie, some people might be saying, well, actually, this is a good thing, that I'd rather that they saw this than didn't, and it shows that the Home Office is doing something about it. What's your view?
Well, what it really shows is that the Home Office and I assume the government and our politicians are more than aware of the specific risk that the men who are entering our country via boats and perhaps even legally as well, we don't know, pose to women and children, but they are happy to take the risk anyway. And as you were saying, Patrick, this is, of course, a vindication for many people who are concerned about this, such as the lady that we were speaking to last night. From Oxfordshire, and now, if any politician refuses to address the specific risk, for example, when Jess Phillips was questioned by Tom Swarbrick on LBC about the risk that Afghan men might pose to British women and girls, i.e., do you not think that Afghan men might have a slightly different view of women that we tend to have here? And Jess Phillips's response was something to do with, well, all societies are patriarchal, and she was the safeguarding minister for women and girls. So anytime any politician or anyone in your life where you have this conversation says, how dare you suggest that these men who are simply fleeing war and want a better life might pose a specific sexual risk or violent risk to women and children, just ask them, well, why does the government feel the need to produce these documents? It says on the website that these guidelines don't just apply to asylum seekers, they apply to everyone living here, which I suppose is like almost a cheeky way of them getting it on the page to suggest, it's not just asylum seekers. Of course, we're not suggesting that it's only asylum seekers who could be at risk of committing these sorts of offences. But why is it is specifically guidance for asylum seekers, and there's no two ways about it.
Connie, another aspect for me is I'm constantly baffled by the female charity workers that we see on the other side of the channel, helping out these men, helping push them off onto the boats across the channel. Also, a lot of them that you see in this country, and just the general political landscape in Britain. You will know better than I do that young women seem to be amongst the most left-wing, pro-open border, pro-refugee at all of all of us, and yet how can they justify that? What is going on psychologically with young women in this country, many of whom are actually, really pro the illegal migration crisis that we've got? When you've got evidence like this that the actual Home Office really does think that there's a chance that some of them do not understand you cannot have sex with kids.
Well, I think it goes to show, in general, and obviously with this story, it goes to show just how powerful and successful, essentially, this political indoctrination of young women in particular has been. They have been programmed to ignore their instincts and put ideology in front of what their survival instincts tell them to do. That's what Gad Saab would refer to as suicidal empathy, that they are prepared to risk themselves if it means essentially gaining social credit from other young women who also say that the most compassionate thing to do is to welcome these men. If the left are consistent, they should be clinging on to this story just as much as channels like GBNews are, but they should be outraged because the implication is that asylum seekers are going to be more inclined to commit these types of offences, which is a claim that they have absolutely denied from the beginning. So they should be covering the story, telling the Home Office how outraged they are about it. So it'll be interesting to see if they do that. But yes, I think that young women in particular, especially educated young women who go to university, less so working class women who have had to live some of the horrors of what we've already seen in this country from men who come from countries that have entirely opposing attitudes to ourselves when it comes to the safety of women and girls. You see these sort of middle-class, university-educated young women who will do anything to protect what they have been told is the truth. And there was one time actually at university when I was asked, someone asked me what my views were on immigration, and at the time the grooming gang story was absolutely exploding when Charlie Peters was at the height of his coverage after Elon Musk had shared that transcript. And when I told them my views, I had said, I think we should deport foreign rapists. I was shouted out of the pub for being a racist. I had to leave. There you go. But I'd like to know what happens now when inevitably the next woman or child or young girl is attacked by inevitably asylum seeker. What will the response be? Will it be, well, we did try to tell them, we did our bit. What more can we do? We did try to educate them. There's still the message is loud and clear to the public. We know the risk, but we're still just gonna wipe our hand clean and say that we educated and let them in anyway.
That's it. That's the thing. That's what really, really winds me up here, is that for a while I thought maybe they could plead ignorance. Not as an excuse, just because they were a bit thick or they were choosing not to look. But now we have the actual proof here in black and white that they are fully aware of the cultural differences, they are fully aware of the risks, and they are willing to play roulette with the lives of predominantly women and girls. However, in light of what we saw happen in a churchyard in Harrow recently, potentially vulnerable elderly male pensioners as well. And that is for me, that's criminal. That is absolutely criminal that they can do that to the British public.
Well, I think the other thing that is very hard for some people to understand, well, it is hard to understand because this is so normal for us. Of course, most people would never do those sorts of things. And if they did, they are shamed and locked up, or as many as we can. Obviously, there's lots of issues with the justice system. But people who do these things are shamed from society, and their own communities and families are ashamed of them. Could you imagine, Patrick, going to a country such as Afghanistan, and you, in a strange version of the same world, you have to flee to Afghanistan from a country with the same culture as Britain, and as part of the integration scheme to help you integrate into Afghanistan, you were told that certain things are acceptable, things that are completely alien to you, that you think are just completely wrong. You would not be able to integrate into that society. For example, that video we saw last night of that child, that very, very young girl who was being sold by her own family to an old man because they couldn't afford to feed their other children. Can you imagine having to adapt to that kind of custom? You just wouldn't do it. So why would we expect men from those countries to be able to adapt to norms here? After a whole life of education in their own country of those norms, why on earth would they suddenly read this pamphlet and go, oh yeah, okay.
This is it. And that's if they want to. That's even assuming that these people, a lot of them do want to integrate. Or do they just want to bring their culture with them? Anyway, look, Connie, thank you very, very much. I really appreciate you coming on. It's Connie Shaw there, who is the External Affairs Officer at the Free Speech Union. Look, ridiculous stuff. Coming up, though, Portugal has just banned the burqa, which means that Britain is fast becoming Europe's top destination, most popular destination, most desirable destination. Now, when it comes to fundamentalist Islam, but before that...
I remember coming to see our maggots just after the king being diagnosed. Nobody could say anything at the time. That was quite difficult.
It was leading several of today's national newspapers. An emotional interview there. Queen Camilla opening up about the toll the king's cancer diagnosis took on the royal family. That's next.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
I might shock you because I do understand why there are people that perhaps will need to take this because of medical issues. I get that, urgent medical issues. But let's face it, this is actually the greedy goods pill. That's what this is. Do I think it will make people lazy in society? Common sense, of course it will. We all want the magic pill. The concern, of course, with the pill, I'm sure the pharmacists will agree, is the potential side effects of these pills. We need to take personal responsibility in the UK, and at the moment, when it comes to health and many other things, we don't.
Thorin, I could see you shaking your head a little bit there. What do you think?
Well, look, it's not a magic pill. It's a medical intervention for a complex condition. I think calling people lazy is just an easy thing to do because it assumes that people who are struggling with weight just need more motivation.
The People's Channel. Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
I'm thrilled to say now I'm joined by another World War II veteran.
In my judgment, the Mosquito was a better aircraft because it's got 2 Spitfire engines.
And you flew it all over Europe. You told me that you had a particularly memorable flight near Berlin. What happened there?
A shell came up underneath, it lifted up the aircraft and it interfered for a brief period with the fuel supply. I didn't know. All I knew was I'd got the propellers were windmilling around and we hadn't any power. And eventually the power came on again. And I leaned across to Doug, my navigator. He was a Canadian, a wonderful bloke. And I said to him, you weren't frightened, were you, Doug? And he said, no, I wasn't frightened, I was bloody terrified.
GB News.
We're only here for like 12 hours. We're flying home at 11 o'clock tonight.
Oh. And mummy and daughter.
Yeah, and it only costs £70, so we thought, well, why not? Because it's cheaper than a supermarket shop.
Supermarket shop or spending the day in Benidorm with cheap booze.
It's a no-brainer, isn't it? It's a no-brainer.
And is there no chance you might just decide we're going to stay?
No, because my husband would kill me.
We did consider it because I said to my mum earlier on, we might just stay and miss the flight, but she's not up for it.
Has your husband actually visited Benidorm Museum?
No, he hasn't. I've been here 27 times. That's my daughter's first time. She's a Benidorm virgin. But
well,
my husband's never been.
Not that he's told you anyway, let's put it like that.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. So in a moving interview, the Queen has spoken for the first time about the emotional strain of keeping the King's cancer diagnosis a secret before it was announced to the world in February 2024. In a new film to mark the cancer charity Maggie's 30th anniversary, Camilla reveals that she was longing to let it out during a visit to one of their cancer support centres, pictured on screen in January 2024, just days before the King's diagnosis was actually officially disclosed.
I remember coming to see our Maggie's just after the King being diagnosed. Nobody could say anything at the time. That was quite difficult. I almost said something, but, you know, I felt that it wasn't the time to say. Looked at everybody who was suffering and all the relations, and I think it made me realise even more how important these places were.
And it was just a week before it became public. And the courage that must have taken for you to make that visit.
It wasn't. I was just longing to let it out, but obviously I couldn't.
I'm joined now by the editor of Majesty magazine, Ingrid Seward. And actually, Ingrid, that is another quite interesting insight into actually life as a royal, where you have to keep certain things bottled up, potentially out of a sense of duty or because of, you know, being in the public eye. And that is such a difficult time anyway, and she still had to do that.
Well, I think any members of the royal family have to keep a lot of things bottled up. But I think the rather charming thing about this interview is that Queen Camilla said she was longing to say something because she could empathise with the other sufferers, and she was longing to say, I know how you feel and I know how worried your family must be, but she knew she couldn't. And I think that's very warm. And I actually went to Maggie's in Aberdeen. I don't quite remember what I was doing in Aberdeen, but she went there as the Duchess of Rothesay in 2013, and I sort of followed her around the building. It was the opening of Maggie's in Aberdeen. And she was brilliant, but she's a very warm person and she's very sympathetic. And I think that she really feels things when she's doing them. And I think she really, really feels the pain of these cancer sufferers and wants to help. And that comes through very strongly.
So things like cancer are the ultimate leveller, aren't they? It doesn't matter what kind of class you are, what your bank balance says, or anything like that. You know, that it is the ultimate kind of leveller, really. She also was going on to say, you know, look at my husband, nothing stopped him, talking about his work ethic and his drive, really, despite having had this diagnosis. And that is an insight into King Charles's psychology, I think, isn't it?
Well, he's a workaholic, and she's told us that many times. And also, I think she really did try and slow him down. But she said, and she made a little bit of a joke of it, said it's impossible. You know, he will stay up half the night working on his state papers. But she persuaded him, at least she said, I persuaded him to stop for lunch, because he gave up having lunch years ago for Lent, decided no food at lunchtime, but she managed to stop him and persuade him to eat something at lunchtime. So she has helped, and she obviously feels things, you know, very deeply, which is why she's a very good president for Maggie's.
Well, absolutely. And, you know, again, you know, in a very, very difficult period for the royal family over the course of the last few years, for both, you know, kind of publicity reasons, but also health reasons, this is something that most people find, you know, incredibly relatable, and it humanises them as well, doesn't it? Albeit, of course, amongst, you know, quite depressing health news. But Ingrid, I'm afraid we're going to have to go there. Thank you so much, though, for your time this evening. I appreciate it. Ingrid Seward, there, is the editor of Majesty magazine. Look, coming up, we're going to be talking about Portugal's banning of the burqa. Should we do the same here? And I'll have all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages for you, hot off the press before anyone else. That's next.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Now the seal has broken. The 2-month-long dry spell across some southern parts of the UK has come to an end, and we'll see further showers during the next 24 hours as low pressure dominates the weather rather than high pressure. That low pressure sinking south slowly during the rest of Wednesday into Thursday, and that means the focus for the liveliest showers will shift. Initially, Northern Ireland, Scotland seeing some thunderstorms, but the risk for thunderstorms pushes into northern England overnight, and there'll be some torrential downpours, hail, thunder as well. Further south, some showers, yes, but also clear spells. A warm night in the southeast, much cooler further north with a brisk northerly breeze. We're going to notice that, and that will continue to bring some showers into the north of Scotland, not quite as lively as Wednesday, however. Certainly further downpours to come. Central and southwestern Scotland tending to be drier. Northern Ireland, a few showers around during the morning, but again not quite as lively, and the thunderstorm risk has diminished by this stage. It's across northern and western England, Wales, where we'll see the most frequent and heaviest showers as we start off Thursday. Drier towards the East Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast with some sunshine, but the cloud will build. And as you can see, it's England and Wales actually on Thursday afternoon where we'll see the most showers. Highly variable, hit and miss from place to place, so not especially useful for relieving the drought situation. There will be some heavy rain in places, and it will feel much cooler compared with much of summer so far. That cool theme continues into Friday with a chilly start in parts of northern UK under clear skies and with some shelter from the breeze. And actually, there'll be sunny spells throughout Friday, fewer showers all in all, still some down the east coast and across Northern Ireland, Wales and the southwest. They'll ease this weekend as high pressure returns. No heat wave, but it will turn a touch warmer.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you could win over £65,000 in prizes.
You could be our latest Great British Giveaway winner.
First of all, we want to give you
£60,000 in tax-free cash. Plus, you'll also receive a fine gold bar worth over £5,000.
For a chance to win, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howard. This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First we'll say, welcome to the UK.
And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday Five.
You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand. Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight on the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace to
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
the People's Channel?
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
It's 10 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight.
Refugees are welcome here! Refugees are welcome here!
Well, they all look very silly now, don't they? I mean, they did then, to be fair, but huge revelation. The Home Office is now telling illegal immigrants not to rape kids, beat up women or mutilate their genitals. It's clear now that they absolutely know there is a big problem and they've been gaslighting us. Plus,
every second I'm wearing it, you know, that is my jihad. And if I'm outspoken for it, then I could be part of this struggle against Islamophobia.
well, Portugal bans the burqa. Meanwhile, Britain becomes Europe's top destination for fundamental Muslims. And
I remember coming to see our Maggots after the king being diagnosed. Nobody could say anything at the time. That was quite difficult.
well, of course, that was one major royal story there. Queen Camilla does an astonishing interview about King Charles's cancer. I do have all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages for you, and there are some absolute stonkers on there. One of them is from The Guardian. This is not one of them, though, actually. Working in Starmer's number 10 was unbearable, says ex-chief of staff. We're going to go to our panel now, but I would warn you to just brace yourselves for some very, very, very significant news. On our panel tonight, we've got the Director of the Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood, Reform UK Councillor Jamie McIver, broadcaster and writer Nina Mishkov. Hold on to your hats for what I'm about to tell you. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Welcome along to Patrick Christys tonight, and I have some major breaking news to bring you now. We can reveal that Harry and Meghan are moving back to Britain. Yes, that is correct. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are moving back to the UK. There were rumours swirling around about this a little earlier on today, but now it has been confirmed. So it's a Megxit bombshell, I'm afraid. Prince Harry and his wife, Meghan Markle, are moving back to the UK 6 years after leaving the United States. They will make that shock return at the end of August for an extended period with kids Archie and Lilibet enrolling at school here. Well, there you go. That in itself is very interesting, isn't it? Were some of the schools around California not quite good enough for them, I wonder? They want to give those children a good British education, despite fleeing the country, it not being safe for them, and them saying some very disparaging things about our country and, indeed, our royal family over the last few years. But they have decided, it appears, to educate their children here. The Sussexes did have a reunion with King Charles last month, and they have apparently now found a new home in the UK. So it obviously does raise serious questions about the future of that Sandringham Agreement, which was dubbed Megxit. King Charles, was apparently only told on Sunday that Prince Harry and his daughter-in-law, Meghan Markle, are returning to Britain. So that is a point that is worth emphasising, that they had a little bit of a reunion with King Charles last month. They've found a home here in the UK. Presumably they've spent quite a bit of time finding a school for their children, and yet they supposedly only told King Charles on Sunday that they would actually be coming back. They're going to move into a non-royal residence. We haven't got our panel here tonight, but our royal correspondent Cameron Walker has hot-footed it into the studio for us. Cameron, thank you very, very much. Very significant news, this. Harry and Meghan are moving back to Britain.
Incredibly significant news, and GB News can confirm that the story is accurate. Harry and Meghan are, after 6 years out of the United States, moving back to the United Kingdom. Both Archie and Lilibet, as you say, Patrick, will be enrolling in school. It's understood that the King was informed on Sunday. Clearly, this raises now a number of questions. First of all, let's look back to 2020. Such a dramatic exit from the royal family, to the point where there was a bombshell Oprah Winfrey interview. Prince Harry, of course, aired all of his dirty laundry in his memoir Spare. Now, Harry would say that he was trying to correct what he saw as mistruths reported in the press during his time as a working royal. Meghan even spoke during the Netflix documentary about being a working royal. On occasions, gave her suicidal thoughts. You know, this was how serious Harry and Meghan's time as working members of the royal family were before they decided to make the move. Now, I must just stress, there is no suggestion whatsoever at this stage that Harry and Meghan are going to be returning as working royals. They're still going to be private citizens when they're in the United Kingdom. But, I mean, security for one, Patrick. I mean, what's going to go on there? We know over the last couple of years, Harry has sued the Home Office unsuccessfully to try and get his taxpayer-funded 24/7 armed police protection reinstated. That has not happened as far as we can tell. So what has changed in order for Harry to feel safe enough to bring his wife and children to the United Kingdom, not only just for a secret visit, as we saw with Highgrove a couple of weeks ago? Apparently this wasn't discussed at Highgrove, by the way, when they went to visit the King and Camilla back in July. But what has changed for them to allow to make this decision?
Well, quite. I mean, these are the great unanswered questions at the moment. It's just worth noting as well some of the things that Harry and Meghan have actually said about our great country in recent years. Prince Harry explicitly labelled the UK tabloid media as bigoted, stating that they actively manufacture a toxic environment rooted in control and fear. Well, with respect, moving back into that country with that same tabloid press, which he has just unsuccessfully tried to sue, is probably not going to be a great idea for him. I can't help but wonder whether or not, with my conspiracy theory hat on, he knew that this was in the pipeline and he wanted to secure a victory over them before he came back in order to try to get them to back off, knowing that his family would be here. He said that they were the driving force behind his family's exit from the country. Well, what's changed? He also revealed that being in London acts as a mental health trigger for him due to the trauma surrounding his mother's death and his experience, again, with the British media. Yeah, I'll rattle this off. The British monarchy and institutional racism. Some of the allegations that they made there. Concerns over the skin tone of one of their children. We'll play you a clip of this in a little bit, but that was an iconic moment, actually. In fact, shall we play it? I think we might as well. It's the clip of the Oprah Winfrey interview where they were saying that there was concerns about the skin tone of their child. Let's have a look at this.
Hold up.
There are several conversations.
There's a conversation with you,
with Harry,
about how dark your baby is going to be?
Potentially, and what that would mean or look like.
Ooh.
That conversation I'm never going to share. But at the time it was awkward. I was a bit shocked.
Can you tell us what the question was?
No, I'm not comfortable sharing that.
But now, after all of that, Meghan and Harry are moving back to Britain, Cameron.
Well, yes, and you have to ask a question as to why. Clearly, there has been some positives that have come out of them being in California. There's also been some pretty disastrous negatives, to put it frankly. We know, of course, that Harry and Meghan had contracts with Netflix. In fact, they still do. They had a contract with Spotify. They also had, clearly, the book deal, or Prince Harry did anyway. The Spotify deal was terminated early, for example. The Netflix shows which they have produced in the last couple of years, apart from that original one where they documented their exit as working royals, have not been that successful when you look at the raw numbers. Meghan has also been trying to become a bit of a lifestyle guru, a businesswoman, if you like, with a lifestyle brand. It's really hard to quantify how well that business is doing, but presumably, bearing in mind all of the products available with her as ever brand are only available within the United States. You cannot buy them in Britain here. You can't buy them. The fact that she's willing to move back to the United Kingdom, a place where these products aren't available, suggests to me that the business is not doing as well as perhaps you would be led to believe.
That is a very interesting point, yes, because if Meghan was the Duchess of Montecito, she was incredibly popular over there, a kind of, you know, better, classier Kardashian, as it were, and she was the toast of every single dinner party and red carpet. There was absolutely no way that they would be moving back, I would have thought.
Well, no, I don't think there would be at all. And, you know, we heard in the early days that they were cozying up to Oprah Winfrey, who lived just down the road from her Montecito mansion, and all the rest of it. Those sort of stories have dried up. And also, when Harry came back to the UK in recent weeks and in recent years, he was clearly... I mean, I've observed him up close when he's here in Britain, and he is clearly very happy doing the charity work which he did as a working royal, you know, spending time with young kids whose dad and mums were soldiers and were killed in Iraq and Afghanistan, you know, Invictus Games supporting wounded veterans, and Well Child supporting very sick, injured people, young children as well. All of that, you know, is kind of hard to criticise him for. But because of all the flack that has come with complaining about your life as a working royal, taking newspapers to court, taking the governments to court, bearing in mind he is suing His Majesty's government in His Majesty's courtroom, putting the King in a very difficult constitutional position. All of that has overshadowed what he wanted, what he likes, what he should be really be doing in the UK. Meghan, on the other hand, does not have that foothold. So I think arguably it's going to be much harder for Meghan to try and fit back in. And we haven't even started talking about the elephant in the room, which is Prince William, the Prince of Wales, who I know for a fact has not spoken to his brother for a number of years. So that is going to be very hard to defrost that relationship.
Can you imagine, seriously, if Prince William, you know, has found out about this, on Sunday, it's a few days on from that now, and he has not had a phone call with his brother about the fact that he's moving back. I do want to ask you, before we play another couple of clips, and we'll go to our panel, but the security aspect of it, huge issue, huge reason. I do not feel safe in the UK. My children are not safe in the UK, and yet they have decided to come back to Britain to enrol their children in a British school. What was the point of all of that, then?
Good question, Patrick. A really, really good question. And the answer is we don't know exactly what security arrangements have been put in place, if any. We know that when Harry comes back to the UK, he has to give the Home Office 28 days' notice for them to decide what level of protection he gets. From speaking to sources close to him, more often than not, it's a police liaison telephone number for a police liaison officer. Arguably, clearly, if somebody was running at him with a knife, it's quicker to call 999, but that's kind of the level of protection he would usually get, unless it's an official royal event. So if it's a state funeral or a royal wedding or something, excuse me, he'll be within the guarded perimeter of the other members of the royal family, similarly to if he stays in the royal property. Of course, he was offered Buckingham Palace. There was a bit of a briefing war last month when he came over to the UK. He ended up not staying in Buckingham Palace because he turned it down and then changed his mind, but that wasn't enough notice for the royal household. The Sun reporting, I can't verify this fact, but the Sun is reporting that the family's new accommodation is not a royal property. So presumably, to answer your original question, Patrick, that means it will need some kind of protection around it if Harry is still this paranoid about his protection, or lack of, as he would see it.
We've got a clip for you here now, which is that infamous trip to South Africa, the couple's first official tour, and Meghan Markle spoke to ITV about the unbearable pressure. Oh, Cameron's waving at me.
I've just got some news to share with you from a royal source. So, GBNews can confirm that the King was first made aware of these plans on Sunday. I understand the King naturally welcomes the opportunity to see much more of the Sussex family in a private and a personal capacity, so separate from, of course, being a working royal. And the King is absolutely clear, I'm told, I understand even, that there is no change in the status or the role of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. They remain private individuals in the eyes of the King. They are not working members of the royal family. And that is clearly in keeping with what they wished to do when they left in 2020, and to absolutely categorically confirm what the late Queen ordered back in the Sandringham summit. There is still no half-in, half-out model. However, I would suggest that that is a grey area, because we have seen Harry carrying out charitable engagements, and similarly to Meghan, but Meghan also, you know, having a business with her jam and everything else.
Yes, and let's just remind ourselves of this clip as well. So this is when they were in South Africa. This is when Meghan Markle was saying that there was an unbearable pressure of life in the spotlight. It was no longer enough for her to just survive it. We can play you that clip now.
I would say, look, any woman, especially when they're pregnant, you're really vulnerable. And so that was made really challenging. And then when you have a newborn, you add this on top of just trying to be a new mom or trying to be a newlywed. It's, I guess, and also thank you for asking, because not many people have asked if I'm okay.
Well, there you go. Yeah, if you are just joining us, where have you been? Harry and Meghan are moving back to Britain, it seems, so that they can educate their kids at a good, solid British school. Mark, what's your views on this?
This has to be the House of Windsor's worst nightmare, doesn't it? I mean, this has been a problem when they've been 5,500 miles away, there or thereabouts, but you can sort of cauterise it. I think we haven't got any information about where they'll be based in the United Kingdom. I'm assuming that Buck House will want them to be probably in the Highlands of Scotland rather than in a nice place in Surrey or Hampshire within 50 miles of London. It is going to mean they're going to be much more in the media spotlight in the UK. And given what we've just heard about the relationship with Prince William, that they haven't even conversed for years, that is going to make what has been a running sore between Harry and Meghan and the House of Windsor considerably worse, will be my judgment. They've got every right to come here. I'd expect him to pay for his own security, but I bet you the House of Windsor are not punching the air at this news.
I've got rumours that the Telegraph podcast, The Daily Tea, which includes, of course, our very own Camilla Tominey, have been saying that apparently they've been, quote, sniffing around the Cotswolds.
There you go.
It could be Kay Burley's neighbour. But there you go. You see, again, that's interesting, because I was looking up these quotes because I thought I remembered them, and it turned out I did. In 2023, the book by Omid Scobie, remember him? We've not heard his name for a while, have we? Omid Scobie said that Meghan, quotes, never felt at home in the UK and, quotes, never wants to set foot again in England. And here we are now. If the rumours about the Cotswolds are true, it doesn't really matter, but if they are true, it is a quintessentially British area, untouched by some of the issues that we face, in other parts of the country, whether it's to do with things like mass immigration or multiculturalism or high crime rates or anything like that at all. It is a picture postcard, chocolate box part of the UK with access to some of the country, maybe even the world's top private schools. And here they come. What's changed?
I am, in contrast to all of you, I am utterly delighted. My only proviso being that I hope that they have as nice a life here as they did in California. I am all for it. They were hounded out of this country by the media, egged on by the royal palaces. They were bounced out, and they've made the best of it. And they have been such a loss. If you look at the contents of the palace balcony for a fly past, there's nobody there. I mean, there's all between sort of 60 and death, basically.
That's not true. I mean, we've had Louis. Louis's a big draw. George, you've got all
But they're not... I know they're not coming back as working royals, but I bet you, after the Invictus Games, Harry will be. He is... I'm sure Cameron will confirm this. I've not seen him in person. I've never met him. But the way he handles a crowd, the ability, the affinity he has with people, that's like his mother. And he is a natural performer, unlike William, who is, in my eyes, kind of entitled and rather pompous. And I have said for a long time now that what I would like to see is Henry IX.
Right, you'd make him king.
I would.
Right.
I said it half an hour ago in the green room.
Nothing if not consistently.
Yep.
Nothing. But
might be a few legal challenges to that.
Well, Harry knows his way around a courtroom, doesn't he? So,
Personally, I feel a bit disappointed that he's thinking of going to the Cotswolds, because he should totally move to Essex, and I'll make him an offer now to move to Ongar, where I'm account. He should move to Ongar. We've got the oldest wooden church in the world, beautiful ancient high street, plenty of nice gaffs. But what I will say is, and also I have in a previous life made Harry a hot chocolate, so I can promise to do that for him. But look, the most important thing is that I actually think it's tragic when families fall out. And I don't think it matters whether it's 5 minutes, 5 years. If there's an opportunity for Harry and his brother to be united like they were when the Queen passed away, I think the nation on a whole would love to see that. Now, obviously, there's a lot he has said about this country, and he needs to be spoken to about that. And actually, the British people have a right to be annoyed with him. But on balance, I think of Diana, I think of the trauma those boys have had, and I actually think if there's a way in which we can see them go back to being where they were before, I hate to say it, Meghan came along and things got bad, I genuinely think it would be for the better.
Well, I wonder, in light of everything that we've heard Meghan Markle say and everything, how much time they are going to be spending together in the UK. There are a couple of articles published online on American news sites, etc., recently about the fact that, you know, they are spending more time apart, not insinuating necessarily that there's a divorce on the horizon or anything like that, but they've got separate lives, they do have separate interests.
You can see that they're in love. You can see them. You can just see by the body language when you see them together. They are still a couple in love. You look at Kate and William, it's a different story.
They are very much in love, the Prince and Princess of Wales. I can confirm that one. But I would question what's happening to Doria, Meghan's elderly mother. Presumably she is not going to be... Well, she's not that elderly,
She can get on a plane, Cameron.
I know, but she's not a British citizen, so she can't stay here permanently.
Why do you want to stay here permanently?
We've got no borders, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that one.
Look, just to say, there is a clip which we're going to play to you before we go to our guest down the line, Richard Fitzwilliams, and this is of when Prince Harry was talking about his desire for reconciliation. However, they would only be reconciliation if there was security details attached to it. I think we can play you that clip now.
I would love reconciliation with my family. I don't know how much longer my father has. You know, he won't speak to me because of this security stuff. Ultimately, this whole thing could be resolved through him, not necessarily by intervening, but by stepping aside, allowing the experts to do what is necessary. I have had it described to me once people knew about the facts that this is an good old-fashioned establishment stitch-up.
Talking about the fact that he couldn't really see the King because of all of the lawsuits that he was pursuing. Every single lawsuit now, as far as we're aware, is over. So perhaps, now that it has been... it's basically been timed, perhaps, now that all the litigation's over, but he can come back to the UK and actually see his father more regularly without putting the King in a constitutionally difficult position. However, I just think, as you're alluding to, I think the British public are going to have a lot of questions here, namely of which, if he is getting kind of security, who's paying for it, because I don't think the British taxpayer is going to want to pay for it.
No.
I think the William question is going to become more problematic. I think from Kensington Palace's perspective, they were thinking, well, it doesn't really matter, he's in California, he's with Meghan, the other side of the Atlantic, we don't need to talk about him, we're not going to. But I think because there is such proximity now between Harry and William, or at least they will be when they eventually do that move, I think it's going to be impossible for them really not to speak, if that makes sense.
Exactly. And the timing of this is actually also coinciding with Earl Spencer's book being published, I believe, in September, which... I mean, he, by his own statement, said that he's essentially going to echo what he was saying in his eulogy at Diana's funeral, which was pretty scathing, really, I think, of the royal family and the way that she was treated and all of that. So that's going to be fascinating because Harry seems to get on quite well with Earl Spencer. I think there was a report that the last time he was here, they'd actually spent some time together. It's going to be a very, very interesting dynamic here. But we can just go down the line to Richard Fitzwilliams, who is a royal commentator. Richard, thank you very much. Keen to get your views on this. For me, though, I'm very sceptical about the amount of time that Meghan Markle is actually going to be in Britain. She must know that she is not least for doing things, you know, not long after the death of our late Queen, kind of mocking the curtsy and the bow and the respect and everything. The British public don't forget things like that. The British public do not like someone who has been treated to a £20 million wedding or whatever it was at the taxpayers' expense, going on Oprah and crying into Oprah's bosom and slagging off our country. Do you think she's going to be welcomed back?
Well, I think firstly that this is an extraordinary development. I mean, when there is a deep rift in any family, one obviously must welcome moves towards resolving it. But to what extent their move back has been linked with an agreement of any sort with, for example, with the king, with other members of the royal family, what they intend to do. I mean, basically, as I see it, we've got to wait and see how this unfolds. But very, very clearly, it's the first thought I have is that, frankly, they failed to make it in the United States. And I mean, we knew Meghan's, as ever, was that there was a question mark about how well she was doing there. She may, presumably that will, for example, continue. Harry lost Centibal. Indeed, he faces a lawsuit linked to that. There's also, of course, the Invictus Games. Now, will the king, either by video, in person, open it next year in Birmingham? We'll have to wait and see. I always thought that was part and parcel of a plan that Sussex has had. I didn't expect this. But essentially, they failed to be A-listers in Hollywood. That was, as I understood it, the plan, because they were so unhappy as senior working royals. Now, precisely what, if any, royal duties they will be doing. I mean, you mentioned the popularity. Harry is not popular, but he's got, I think, over 30% now in the polls. Meghan is somewhere around 20 or thereabouts from my memory now. That's pretty grim. They've got a hostile press. They've got a public that is unsympathetic. And also there is unquestionably Prince William, who I cannot see welcoming this.
Do you not think it's quite disrespectful to the King? Bear in mind that actually 3 or 4 of today's newspaper front pages are a very emotional interview by Queen Camilla talking about the impact that the King's cancer had, you know, on him, on her, on the family as a whole. Is it quite disrespectful to him to have only told him on Sunday, potentially not have told William, although I imagine news might have filtered through to him, when they were there a month or so ago? They will have planned this, they will have got somewhere to live, they will have enrolled their kids in school, they will have known all this. That is a bit of a disrespect, is it not, to your father, let alone the King?
Well, we must await the details as to who knew what and how. The Sussexes have been absolutely ruthless. I mean, you alluded to this when they stepped down as senior working royals, bringing grief, I felt, to some of the Queen's final years. And there's no doubt Oprah was deeply damaging. It was a nuclear weapon exploded in Buckingham Palace. The Harry and Meghan Netflix series was a shocker. And as for Harry's memoir, Spare, it sold brilliantly, but its contents, I thought, were extraordinarily badly chosen. Indeed, some of it positively laughable. But their behaviour has been erratic, which is why one has to know all the details behind this and precisely what's been arranged before really looking to the future. If they're enrolling their children in schools in Britain, then Harry is right, he'll be bringing them up, and linked with, obviously, the Spencers, the fact of Spencer's memoirs coming out next month. I was wondering whether that was linked in any way to the Sussexes. I do think that now the two have been working in tandem, or certainly it's been arranged this way, and I think it will be extremely...
Let's elaborate on that, Richard. Richard, let's elaborate on that. So Earl Spencer's memoir's coming out. We have a few little tidbits alluding to what might be in there, relating to her marriage to King Charles and potentially some of the circumstances surrounding her death and the aftermath of that, and her, essentially, I would have thought, being fundamentally mistreated by the institution that is the royal family. That's going to be quite damaging to King Charles and the institution. And then at the same time, in swoops Harry with Meghan to, what do you think, feel vindicated, to stick another knife into the establishment of the royal family? What do you think how do you think that marries up?
I very, very definitely think that the royal family will be wise to this in the sense that they will not, certainly, depending who knew what, but I mean, they won't trust the Sussexes. Trust is at the essence of this. This is William's problem with Harry, and also, I mean, when they did have tea with the king, he and his family, we know William rather ostentatiously was playing polo and Catherine was supporting him. Now, precisely how things will be managed when you've got, so to speak, a bit of a rogue royal family in Britain, that remains to be seen. I mean, obviously they'll be taking on charitable work of some sort, and also moving back to Britain. That implies are they going to give up Montecito, for example? It costs a lot, I understand.
Well, I've got a theory on that, Richard. I've got a theory on that. As you were talking, apparently their Montecito mansion, the Chateau of Riven Rock, is worth roughly $29 million, from what I can gather. Now, of course, Prince Harry is potentially on the hook for a very, very large legal bill in relation to his court defeat against Associated Newspapers Limited. Prince Harry and his co-claimants are facing a total case cost estimated to be up to around £50 million or $67 million, that equates to. Now, obviously, there's a little bit of kind of insurance involved in that, but still, there's a massive shortfall. And I was just having a look because I wanted to be sure. Property is significantly cheaper in the Cotswolds than it is in Montecito, apparently. So, you know, I can see a situation here where they've thought we might have to sell the chateau and try to recoup some of our losses in the surrounding countryside of the Cotswolds, Richard.
Well, firstly, we remember they were living at Frogmore Cottage at one time, and they had to sell that when Spare came out, or so it was reported, and Harry was unkind about Queen Camilla. Harry was saying that she sacrificed others when being rehabilitated. This was quite a feat, managed by the King, of course, or the then Prince of Wales, and the royal family. But nonetheless, he was pretty brutal about her, and that led, it's supposed, that they were removed from Frogmore. But equally, yes, they can buy another home and they can settle, but of course things won't be settled. Every single movement they make in public will be in the press, a press that they've declared war on, or Harry did until he lost against the Mail on Sunday. So it's going to be anthropologically fascinating, that I do admit, but I do feel for the royal family, because whether or not they've been tipped off beforehand or who knew what, I don't know, but they face very difficult times. They face Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, who was arrested. What will happen to him? What about the police investigation? And also they face Meghan and Harry back in Britain, apparently. And what do they intend to do with themselves, apart from certain amount of charitable work? It will be a tough call.
Quite. Richard, thank you very much. As always, great to have you on the show. And thank you for coming on at short notice. This is Richard Fitzwilliams there, who's the royal commentator, reacting to, if you are just joining us, that breaking news that Harry and Meghan are moving back to Britain. It is believed that their children, Archie, 7, and Lilibet, 5, will be enrolling at a school in Britain. So that is the latest news. Rumours on the Daily Tea, which is the Daily Telegraph's podcast, one half of which is hosted by Camilla Tominey, so that they've been sniffing around the Cotswolds, apparently. The Daily Telegraph's front page is what you're looking at on the screen there. Harry's coming home. I'm going to play you a little clip now of... it's one of many, of Meghan Markle being utterly insufferable, but there's more to it than meets the eye here. I'm going to show you this clip and we'll talk about it in a sec.
Curtsied as though I was like... Pleasure to meet you, Your Majesty.
What's wrong with that?
It's insufferable.
It's not insufferable.
It is
someone sending herself up in the way she had to curtsy.
She's mocking it.
She's mocking the process.
She's not
mocking the process.
She's not mocking the process.
Absolutely.
She's mocking herself.
Harry looks
doing
as
it.
awkward. You said that they look like
Come
a couple in love. He looked like he didn't want to be anywhere near her there.
Oh, come on. She was sending herself in the way she had to curtsy. But, I mean, she's American, for God's sake. They don't have stuff like that. We're accustomed to. We've all been brought up.
Don't marry into the royal family, then.
Oh, come on, please. You know, it's a terrible task that she took on. Everybody knows that. I mean, William and Charles, you know, went through...
Terrible task having a £20 million...
No, that's not... dealing from the inside. And there are many women who were not up to it, and Charles would have married somebody else, and they wouldn't take it on.
Well, look, I actually think a lot of people are going to be incredibly annoyed that they have been really, really disparaging about Britain. They have made, in my view anyway, the final days, year or so, of Prince Philip and our late Queen's life unnecessarily miserable. They've caused huge potential racism allegations against both the serving monarch and also Catherine. They absolutely seem to have no shred of empathy whatsoever for Catherine's cancer diagnosis. They've been absolutely vile, I think, about this country and about the royal family, and yet here they are now. Their kids are getting to proper school age and they want to move to a chocolate box, quintessentially English village in the countryside, untouched by any of the other issues this country faces, so they can give their kids a good British education.
I mean, intriguingly here, I know this won't trouble Nina at all, but she is in a very small minority with her enthusiastic support for Harry and Meghan. I've looked through recent opinion poll data. Now, obviously, for the monarchy, you know, opinion polls, if you like, don't count. That's the point of it. It's not supposed to be democratic. But nevertheless, Harry's approval rating hovers around 30%, have a positive view of him, with about 60% having a negative view. For Meghan, it is far worse. Only about 20% hold a positive view, with about two-thirds, 67%, holding a negative view. These are Keir Starmer-esque levels of unpopularity. I mean, this is really in the toilet levels of unpopularity amongst the British people. Contrast that with Prince William and the Princess of Wales. Around 75% have a positive opinion of that couple, with negative ratings only around 10%. I mean, heroic levels of popularity that even the late Queen couldn't keep up with. If you look at the King, about 60% or more have a favourable view of him. 68% feel he's doing a good job as the monarch. Queen Camilla, bit more neck and neck, about 43% and 44%. So she's a bit neutral, but has had a massive rehabilitation. So be in no doubt where public opinion stands. Emphatically, overwhelmingly negative about Harry and Meghan, and emphatically, overwhelmingly positive about the next king and his wife.
So, Cameron, how do you see this playing out in practice? Because there is a potentially good angle to this, which is that they've had criticism for their children not seeing a lot of the grandparents.
Yeah.
And that now that might be an opportunity to do that. Could there even be a whiff of reconciliation between the brothers? Is this a thought?
Well, so the Telegraph is reporting that the Prince and Princess of Wales were informed ahead of this announcement. If we can call it an announcement, they were informed. Right. I haven't heard from Kensington Palace yet if that is true, but presumably it is, because everything else appears to be true in this article. I would cast your minds back to 2020 when they were giving the reasons why they have decided to lead their royal life and move to America. One of them is what they saw as the intrusive press and the intrusion into their private lives, and wanting to escape that for them and their children. This, no doubt, is going to cause one of the biggest media storms of the decade, and putting themselves back into the United Kingdom in the pool which Harry clearly detests, because he has sued 3 very major newspaper groups over what he sees as intrusive press coverage. I'm questioning the motivations here. Why have they decided to come back?
Another Netflix series.
I don't think it's going to be another Netflix series. I think it's more likely that their experiment, if you can call it that, hasn't worked out as planned within the United States. Perhaps money's not doing as well. Perhaps money's not doing as well as it perhaps should have been, and they can no longer, I'm just speculating here, maybe they can no longer afford their Montecito mansion and want somewhere smaller, also mindful of the fact that the king has cancer. He's continuing cancer treatment. Regardless of what's gone on, this is still a son and a father, so clearly he wants to see them. And from what I can tell and what I've been told, you know, the Highgrove meeting went as well as it could have done, and there haven't been leaks on either side about what was discussed within that meeting. So perhaps this is an opportunity for them to you know, see more of each other in a private capacity. The King clearly thinks that is a good thing. I mean, as I said, I understand that he's naturally pleased for the opportunity to see his family. But the William and Harry issue, this is going to be really tricky for Kensington Palace to navigate, and it could potentially overshadow a lot of stuff they've got coming up in the autumn. Prince William's Earthshot Prize. We've got George going to Eton in a couple of weeks' time for the first time. So all of this is going to be playing out in public at the same time.
Just before I go to Jamie on this, you reminded me of a good point there. There seems to be a pattern. Whenever the royal family proper are doing something, like I think when King Charles and Queen Camilla went to see the Pope, there was a Meghan and Harry announcement. It seems to follow them around. I think she launched a new range of jam, like on Catherine's birthday or something. There was some of these things. These things, there seems to be a pattern here, doesn't there? And now William and Kate, anytime they're in public, they're now, this is the question. Have you spoken to your brother? Have you seen your brother? Are you going to see your brother? Are you happy he's back? Hounded constantly.
Yeah.
Back at it.
It's going to be, William is going to be livid, I can imagine. And not necessarily because his brother's coming back to the UK. I just mean the distraction that it will create for what he sees as the important work that the royal family do. And I think a lot of our GBNews viewers and listeners will probably agree that the royal family, the working royal family, does a lot of good deeds for this country, and William won't want that overshadowed, neither will the King. But I just think this is clearly only just breaking here. We don't know the ins and outs as to exactly what they're going to do, but the fact of the matter is, in a couple of weeks' time, they're going to be moving back to the UK to a private property. The world's media is going to be trying to find out exactly where they live, and all of those pages and newspaper articles are going to be not focus on the working royals.
Worth noting as well, Jamie, some of the things that Prince Harry did say about his brother in his book. An allegation of physical assault, that his brother grabbed him by the collar, ripped his necklace, knocked him to the floor, causing him to land and break a dog bowl that cut his back.
Yes, which Kensington Palace maintained a dignified silence for. Excuse me.
Which means they don't deny it.
Well, they don't comment on a lot of stuff like that, but whatever happened in that situation, that you look at the opinion polls with the British public, and the Prince and Princess of Wales very much on top. Harry and Meghan, apart from Andrew, of course, are at the very bottom. Although, in the last couple of months, which is quite interesting, Harry has ticked up a bit. The British more of a British public.
Less of him, probably.
Well, yeah, possibly, or he's, you know, doing a bit more charity work in the UK. His popularity seems to be going up slightly, not loads, not Meghan's.
Look, if we have the choice between one of Diana's sons being on the other side of the world, totally cut off, and out of public life altogether, which I appreciate was his wishes a few years ago, or we have the choice of them being back in Britain and there being some sort of forgiveness over time. I personally think most people would prefer the option of forgiveness and happy families, the cousins growing up, the future king having his cousins as his friends, blah, 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 blah. But obviously, we can all see that the minute Harry got with Meghan and then they all started to go wrong slowly after the marriage, everyone could see Harry wasn't the Harry that we knew. Everyone could see Harry was making errors. You want to shout at the TV, why is he saying that? Why is he doing that? And everybody knows someone in their life that has made massive errors. Now, what do we do as a Christian country? Just say, right, see you later, not interested. No, this is Diana's son. Ultimately, he has got to apologise. That, I would say, is a red line. He has got to accept the way he behaved. Now, if what he said is true, then that's one thing. But the way he dealt with it, the way he aired that dirty laundry in public, he has got to make an apology for that. And, of course, as Patrick has said, he definitely did. And whether that was him personally and what they did as a couple or what the media did, we'll never really know. But it cannot be forgiven that the Queen, in her last few years, would have absolutely hated what was going on. She would have been mortified, like any grandmother would be. And so I do think that if they come and they're not sensitive to that, they're making a big PR catastrophe. But I do believe that there can be a positive way forward, but they have got to accept, and Meghan has to accept also her part in this too. But they definitely, I think the British people would forgive if they come and they play the ball right.
Princess Diana's 20-year anniversary coming up, isn't it? I believe
30 years.
30 years.
Sorry,
30
30 years. Sorry, I misread that. Yes, 30-year anniversary. Gosh. And that's, in fact, on the 31st of August, isn't it?
31st of August 97, so we're up to the 29th year in a couple of weeks' time. But, of course, Charles Spencer kind of releasing his new book on his sister. Well, although it's being released this year, they're billing it as the 30th anniversary book, or why he's decided to write it. But, yeah, I mean, it's a tricky situation, isn't it? Because you look back at the history of the royal family, we had... The King Edward VIII clearly abdicated. He was effectively exiled to France and came back very occasionally for various royal events, mainly state funerals and the like. Then we had Diana and the divorce of her and Charles. We also had the divorce of Fergie and Andrew, and also Princess Anne and Mark Phillips too. They all divorced. Most of them kind of kept out of the spotlight. I think there are comparisons perhaps between Diana and Harry. You can certainly see Harry within Diana in terms of how he was attempting to play the media, is attempting to play the media. Also, the kind of charity work they do. Harry does a lot of stuff with the Halo Trust. But coming back to the UK is quite unprecedented. That sort of thing hasn't happened where someone's left the country and then is coming back by the looks of it, for the foreseeable future, when there has been such a fallout with the working royals and indeed the British public by extension.
Mark, again, the timing here of this, because there are several big events planned around the 30th anniversary of that very tragic death of Princess Diana. The Diana Award Gala. You've obviously got the Invictus Games as well, and there's been rumours for a little while that Harry and William could reunite with Diana Awards, etc. But they're kind of going to have to now, aren't they? I mean, they're going to have to be in the same room at the same time.
I'm not sure that's true, actually, over the course of this autumn. I'm rather with Jamie that I think Harry and Meghan need to show some serious contrition. Otherwise, I think bridges can't be built. It doesn't actually much matter whether what's in the book Spare is true or not. It's that it was made public is the key issue, not the truth or falsehood of it. Even if every word is true, I don't think it should have been published. So I would have thought to get them in the same room, there is going to have to be a unilateral stance of contrition by both Harry and Meghan. And then I would guess that the way you work it back is you do not say or do anything controversial at all. You just do charity work. And you talk about that charity work, whether that's about mental health for children, disabled athletes, whatever it might be. You pick an uncontroversial lane and you double and treble down on that, and you don't talk about your angst and worries to Oprah Winfrey or her British equivalent.
Well, Harry has those charity links in the UK. Meghan doesn't. I think that's going to be tricky for her to try and build up that portfolio of charity organisations. She did a bit of work with the Grenfell victims when she was a working royal, which did go down very well when she was still a working royal, but not as much as Harry.
I'm quite sort of mystified by the absolute vitriol, but I shouldn't be, because the moment that Harry and Meghan got together and were going to be married, and they looked like they were going to be eclipsing Kate and William, the vitriol in the press started, and it went on and on and on for years and years and years on a daily basis, And no wonder that the public have put them so far down in the polls, because they have just swallowed it, because it's just been coming at the public for years.
What on earth is Meghan Markle going to do all day in the Cotswolds, Nina?
She is going to do whatever she...
Make jam.
Well, look, OK, blame the woman, have a laugh at the woman.
I'm not having a laugh at the woman, I'm just saying I don't see how this lasts.
Well, I don't know either, but if you're talking about, books and letting Diana did a book. His own mother did a book. So did Charles with Jonathan Dimbleby. It doesn't say, but it was all his words. And so why should Harry get all the flack?
Charles's book wasn't launching an assault on the House of Windsor, was it?
No, but he did go on at length about the lack of affection from his parents and what bad parents they were.
Yeah.
Apart from, that's a pretty radical thing to say.
Yeah, but Spare was a full-blown attack on the House of Windsor.
And so was Diana's.
Yeah, but she was permanently at war.
This is in their. So I'll go to my guest in a second, but in their 6-part Netflix docuseries, Harry and Meghan, the couple drew sharp parallels between the opposition to their relationship and the Brexit vote. The series critically branded the British Commonwealth as Empire 2.0. Fascinating, isn't it, that they decide that they're going to go and live in in one of the most quintessentially English podcasts.
They're not saying they don't like Britain. Why do you think they do? They do like Britain. Harry loves England.
honest,
Harry loves Britain.
They've not been here for a little while. The minute Andy Burnham sticks a migrant camp next to where they are, they'll be straight back to California.
100%. I tell you what, seriously, if it's anywhere near Kay Burley's gaff as well, you build a military base just to put them in it.
And Ellen DeGeneres.
Ellen DeGeneres, magnificent.
Refugees welcome.
Refugees
Jeremy
are
Clarkson.
welcome here.
Yes.
David Cameron.
Yes, quite.
They're all there.
Yes, but they oppose that anyway. Right, so we've got Grant Harold down the line, who is the former royal butler to then Prince Charles. Grant, thank you very much. Pleasure to see you. Thank you for popping up unexpectedly for us here. What is your immediate hot take on the return of Harry and Meghan then?
Well, I've been listening. I can agree with Cameron. It's kind of unprecedented. I mean, I've always said, over all the years, I always thought one day he would return back to the UK with or without Meghan. That's what I've always said. And here it appears to be now happening that they're all coming back as a family. What I'm wondering, though, is what's going on behind the scenes, because we know that he's been in communication with his father a lot more. We know he had that visit with his father. And I'm wondering if this is something maybe it was discussed during that highly confidential meeting, which they haven't actually discussed, well, apart from obviously Meghan discussing at a dinner of some of the details. But I mean, we don't know much about it, and I'm wondering maybe that is what possibly was getting discussed. Now, I see that there's rumours it could be the Cotswolds. As you know, I live in the Cotswolds. It's a beautiful part of the country. It wouldn't surprise me because a lot of his friends are up here. You know, a lot of his friends are still living up here.
Well, quite. A lot of his friends are. Do you not think it's quite difficult, though, to come back from some of the things that they've said about this country and the royal family, really, in the public
Totally. I mean, I don't quite know how he's going to do it. I mean, I put a little thing on my social media to say about the breaking news, and the amount of comments that have already come in, which I can't repeat some of them, but, you know, basically saying, how can he do this? How can he come back? So I think the majority of the British public are not over the moon about this idea. I think they would rather they stayed out there. But obviously he's made the decision. Also, from another point of view, obviously his father is still battling cancer. It could be a private reason. Maybe he wants to be around to be there to support his father. I can't imagine what his brother is going to be thinking at this moment in time, because obviously he'll be aware of this decision or what he's thinking, and as we're aware, they're not speaking at the moment. So I can't imagine how that's gone down in their kind of camp.
Do you actually see Meghan spending that much time here?
No, I don't. I mean, because we're aware that she likes the States. She loves her life over there, and she didn't really seem to enjoy being here. So if she comes over, I don't quite know how long that's going to last. I mean, whether she comes here for a few months and then commutes back and forward, I don't know how it's going to work, because it was very evident that she didn't really enjoy being here. So I don't quite. And again, what's the role going to be? I mean, again, I was listening to what everyone's saying, and I agree. What is the role going to be? I mean, because they're no longer working royals, I don't really see that changing right now. I don't see that changing. So I don't quite understand what the role's going to be, what they're actually going to do. You know, are they going to create again some new role here for themselves to do? I mean, I just don't understand what the plan is.
Can I keep you on the line for me, Grant? Is that all right? Cameron, sorry to put you on the spot a bit here, but what are the exact arrangements under this Megxit agreement that they've got then?
Well, under the Sandringham summit, which was that big thrashing out moment between the late Queen, Charles, William and Harry, where, well, according to Harry, William was screaming at him during his memoir Spare. But what happened was that the agreement was that Harry and Meghan were fully out. So they were no longer working members of the royal family. Harry lost his military titles, his kind of ceremonial military titles, for want of a better phrase, and the patronages that belonged to the crown, belonged to the Queen. They moved to California. What the late Queen did not allow Harry and Meghan to do was be half-in, half-out royals. In other words, you're not allowed to cash in on your royal titles. Those rules effectively held for a number of years. The late Queen passed away. King Charles ascended the throne. In the last year or so, there has been some uncomfortable commentary about whether or not that grey area into the half-in, half-out realms has been crossed. But, excuse me, from the Buckingham Palace side of things, they haven't put in any official complaints or anything. And to be honest, I think from the King's perspective, bearing in mind he does have cancer, he'd rather not start another war when the last one hasn't really ended yet.
Yes, quite. Well, Grant, what do you make of that? Do Do you think that this is all about the quality of school for the kids, Grant? Is that what it is?
No, I don't think that at all. I mean, again, as Cameron was saying, I agree. And I think the other interesting thing is, historically, and it's slightly different because this is a former king, we're talking about Edward VIII. But, when he left, when he gave up, when he abdicated and they left the country, they never came back. They had to set up a new life, and I don't think personally, from what the research I don't think they were ever really that happy. I mean, he had this different life, but they never came back. They couldn't come back, and Harry's made this decision that he thinks he can. The sad bit is, I honestly think he thinks he's going to come back and it's going to be happy families, and I don't think it's going to be like that. And I think, if anything, as Cameron said, I don't think that the king certainly doesn't want another fight, another war, but he'll be aware that this is going to cause more friction between the two brothers, because William will be sitting there going, well, what's he going to be doing? And he'll probably be even saying to his father, "What, you're not going to start giving him things to do." I mean, because he hasn't really got any role as such. That was part of the agreement, where they stood back from all that. So what are they going to do? Go and get a job in Tesco?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a very good point. And just very finally, Grant, you obviously have, some personal, knowledge of both Harry and William, don't you? Did you see anything in their characters, when you were, around them when they were much younger, to indicate that anything like reconciliation could be possible, or anything like that at all?
I think the thing about the two of them, Harry was always, which is very much his trait, he was always the jokey, silly, can I say, the goofy kind of one. And William was always, don't get me wrong, William could have a laugh and a joke as well, and especially when they were around each other, they were hysterical, believe it or not, together. But William was always the one that was a little bit more serious, when kind of bring his brother back in, and even around their father, when there was always kind of a bit of hilarity and a bit of fun, William was one that kind of reined it in. The one thing about William is he's got this massive thing about trust. It's a massive thing for him. And I've seen it. When you break it, he really doesn't come back from it. And even, dare I say, even with his brother, I don't see how, with what's been said about family members and everything, I don't see how they're going to come back from it. And if they do, I think William's always going to be cautious. I think he's always going to be worried about what if. And, part of me is also wondering, this is a terrible thing to say, his father's obviously not well. I understand he wants to be there. But, God forbid, if the king's health does decline, are we going to see Harry making more of a push to kind of be by his side? And, and it would be difficult for William, because William has been by his side, certainly for those last few years. And so it's going to be difficult, I think, for William kind of watching his brother come in and kind of wondering, what is this all about? What is the goal? What is he trying to achieve out of this, moving back to the UK? I think it's going to shock a lot of people.
Oh, well, quite. Grant, thank you very much. Always really appreciate your company, especially when it's completely out of the blue for you. Grant Harold there, who's the former royal butler to Prince Charles. We're going to say goodbye to Cameron shortly, but I do just want to read up. This is being reported in the Daily Express, and it's a clip, actually, of an interview that News 24, which is an Australian news channel, has done with a man called Andrew Lowney, who is a royal biographer who wrote the book entitled The Rise and Fall of the House of York. The Express and indeed News 24 have wasted no time in putting this out, saying that actually Prince Harry reportedly wants to break free amid alleged tensions in the marriage, and that he is getting on, that Harry and Meghan are not getting on as well as they used to. He feels he's been played, and he's lost interest in all of the making lots of money stuff, and wants to create a legacy. No doubt, I imagine that Harry and Meghan would probably deny that, but I'll keep coming back to it. I'll be very surprised if Meghan Markle spends a huge amount of time in the UK. So, Cameron, just to recap then, as we approach the end of the hour, this is a pretty sensational, some would say bombshell piece of news, isn't it?
Yeah, for those of you just joining us, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, we can confirm, plan to move back to Britain more than 6 years after relocating to California following Megxit. The couple will be moving later this month. Their home is going to be a non-royal residence outside of London. There is no change, I understand, to Harry and Meghan's role and status as private individuals, and remain non-working members of the royal family. Royal sources insist there is no half-in, half-out model still. That is what the late Queen ordered back during that Sandringham summit in 2020, 2021-ish. And the King was first made aware of this news on Sunday, I understand. the Telegraph reporting the Prince and Princess of Wales were also made aware ahead of time, although I cannot confirm that independently this evening. And the family will remain, be in the private and personal capacity, but the King is understood to be welcoming the opportunity to see his son and grandchildren and daughter-in-law more regularly. So that is the kind of breaking news this evening. It leaves us with lots of thoughts, as we've been discussing for the last hour. A couple of things, just two very brief things I'd point out. One, I think trust is gone completely between Harry and William. That's going to be very hard to get back. And because it's very hard to get back, that is going to overshadow a lot of the work that I think Prince William and Catherine are going to want to do over the next few months. So that's going to be tricky. And also I would point out this. One of the reasons Meghan moved away and Harry moved away to the UK is because moved to the United States is because there was a bit of a culture clash, I think, between America and Britain and the American way of doing things and the British way of doing things. I think Meghan was much happier from what I could see in California for the last few years. So the question is, well, why are they moving back? And then the even bigger question, I think this is where the danger is going to be for the couple, is Meghan going to experience the same problems she did when she was here as a working member of the royal family? Is she going to fit in with Britain? Does she have a role in British life? Not public life, but business ventures, charity work. What is she going to do? And I think that's going to be a big challenge for her.
Absolutely. It's going to be an absolutely massive challenge for them. And given the fact that they seem to have churned through various different PR gurus over the last years, there is absolutely no evidence to suggest that they will navigate this challenge successfully, realistically. So
maybe she'll be sat on one of those GB News chairs before long.
Well, maybe. Maybe. You never know.
Invitation's open.
Doing the big exclusive with Cameron Walker. Cameron, thank you very, very much. Really great to have you there and, you know, get all the kind of facts out there. As Cameron Walker is our royal correspondent. Well, we are going to steam straight into the next hour here. That big breaking news for you, again, just to reiterate, in case you've been living on the moon with your fingers in your ears, is that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are moving back to Britain. Well, cue the rumour mill. Yes, that's right. Where are they going to be living? Where are they going to be staying? The kids are apparently going to school over here as well. The Sun have got the story, Harry and Meghan coming home. The Telegraph have obviously got the story as well there. Harry and Meghan are coming home. Shall we remind ourselves, just as we reset the hour here, of some of the more iconic clips, really? And I don't think we can overlook, can we, the Oprah Winfrey interview that absolutely sent shockwaves through the British establishment, through the British media. People could not believe that just after a couple of years after they'd been lavish with a £20 million or whatever it was, taxpayer-funded wedding, there she was, crying into Oprah's bosom and making kind of backhanded comments about racism. Here she is.
Hold up.
There are several conversations.
There's a conversation with you.
With Harry.
About how dark your baby is going to be?
Potentially, and what that would mean or look like.
Ooh.
That conversation I'm never going to share. But at the time it was awkward. I was a bit shocked.
Can you tell us what the question was?
No. I'm not comfortable sharing that.
Well, there we go. So that's that really. They are coming back despite everything. I will just recap for you as well some of the things that they have said about Britain in the last few years. They've said that basically it was toxic in a book by Meghan Markle's autobiographer, or as he would just call it, a royal biographer. You know, he said that Meghan Markle would never step foot back into this country, that she didn't want to ever come back, that it was too toxic for her, that the press intrusion had been far too much, that they couldn't handle it, that they didn't like it, that basically, you know, they didn't also like the old empire of Britain and all of this stuff. And yet here they are. Now, the cynic in me might say that actually, yet again, do you remember that South Park series, the South Park show about Meghan and Harry? We have got a little clip of the South Park show. Now, they, for me, got it absolutely spot on. That they were all about their privacy. We want our privacy, despite being followed around by Netflix cameras, despite doing a Spotify show, despite going to the opening of a fridge door. Well, they've kind of gone... They've dropped down the pecking order a bit, and then all of a sudden this news emerges, and we've got a clip here from that South Park show.
It has been several months now since our beloved Queen has died. Our Canadians are finding it hard to go on. All Canadians, that is, except for our first guest, the Prince and his wife. We want privacy! We want privacy! All right, thanks for having us on the show. It's so awesome to be here. It's great. So let me start with you, sir. You've lived a life with the royal family. You've had everything handed to you, but you say your life has been hard, and now you've written all about it in your new book, Where?
Well, there we go. Well, Stephen Allen has joined the panel for us. Thank you very, very much. What's your hot take on Harry and Meghan moving back to Britain?
Do you know, I was listening on the way in when you broke the news, and when you got halfway through the sentence, the breaking news is Harry and Meghan are... I would not have put money on moving back to the UK. I would have lost cash in that moment. I would have put all my money on getting divorced. So I was wrong about that. But, I mean, this might be step one in that process, because the laws over here are a lot safer if you're going to go through that. There's just a prediction for the future. Do you know, of all the hypocrisies we can sit here and point out, I don't think... Oh, I love South Park. I think it was a funny episode. But actually, genuinely, we all want to control the level of privacy we get. It just doesn't matter for the rest of us. But, of course, they want privacy on their own terms like everyone does. The hypocrisy comes from making a bit of dosh by besmirching the name of the UK and then, like, don't burn your bridges. You've got to be nice on the way up, because on the way back down, when you have to move back to the UK, you don't want a list of things you've said about this place to be easily searchable on Google.
Yes, quite. We're looking at pictures on the screen at the moment of the Fab Four, as it used to be. No.